Good morning, everyone. We're here with Mega Jewell, who is an expert in the AI world. I'm Don Turner with LA Score Los Angeles. I want to talk to you a little bit about Score before we get going. We have 200 chapters nationwide with over 10,000 volunteers where we are active and retired entrepreneurs and executives. We're providing professional guidance and information to maximize the success of America's existing and emerging small businesses. We create success stories. We provide one-on-one counseling, business workshops, and have several resources on our score.org website. Our workshops include starting your own business, creating a successful business plan, financing your business, marketing, franchising, creating an online presence, promoting and protecting your invention, and many more. It's an ongoing relationship. Our LA chapter covers Long Beach, Los Angeles, Santa Barbara, San Luis Obispo, and Ventura, so we have a wide geographic area in which to serve. Anyway, thank you all for coming. Do request a mentor at score.org if you don't already have one. Like us on Facebook and tell other entrepreneurs about Score and all that we offer. I'll hand it over now to Mega. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much, John, for the introduction. I see a bunch of us here ready to learn about how we can integrate AI and those ChatGPT tools into our marketing workflows. So I see a bunch of folks, and it's all in alphabetical order. So I'm going to say hi to you, Ala, Alyssa, Amy. We've got Quinn, Roberto, everyone, and even Zoe. Thank you so much for joining today. What I would love to hear about in the chat, or even if you want to use a Q&A, maybe there's an anonymous function there, is to hear a bit more about you, why you're here, your business, and how this workshop is going to benefit you and your expectations. That way, I can have this conversation with you live and making sure that we address a lot of those challenges, pain points, questions, and creating solutions together. So again, please use the webinar chat. Let's take advantage of our time together. It is not just me talking at you today. It is me talking with you. So what you'll learn today is the basics of what AI and ChatGPT is all about. It's been around for, well, the technology has been around for quite some time. How you can leverage this generative tool, amplifying your marketing and creative campaigns through ChatGPT. It is text-based, so we'll figure out ways to complement what we're doing. Understand how we can ask things, inform things, and the tools to really help them or it understand what we're all about to help create some content for us. And last but not least, by popular demand, people have asked, hey, what are your Chrome extension or other tools that you like to use? So that is a little bit of expectations today. And who the heck am I? My name is Mega Jewell. You are more than welcome to give me any nickname that you'd like. I get Megatron a lot, Mega Millions, whatever the case might be. And I'm a former reporter. And what that generally means is that I love people and I love immersing myself in the community, meaning who's who, what makes things pulse and what makes things work and what's the pulse of the community. I really, really love building those relationships with people because that's what it's all about, at least for me. In terms of my career, being a reporter, transitioning into a communications specialist, and now workshop presenter, reason is not only am I a business owner, my mom is a business owner, I am here to pay it forward to you. So with that said, I want to chime in into the chat to make sure we know who we're talking to today and what we're hoping to get from this particular workshop. So we've got Optimize AI to improve my marketing. You're here, the right place. We've got a San Luis Obispo volunteer. Welcome. You like my energy? Thank you so much. It is that cup of coffee I am sure that I had drank like 2 minutes ago. And in terms of ChatGPT skills to use in my small business, perfect. You do already use it for blog posts, emails, social posts, advertising. So Zoe, I would love to hear your feedback of what you've been doing, not only this, but how it's, performed, and also how you can amplify in terms of knowledge from this conversation today. We've got other ones from optimizing our AI for our production company and our personal lives. Fun fact, people have used this to make their work, personal training regimen, stuff like that. I think it's very interesting. And then Quinn, we've got foundational skills and reading program for K through 2 throughout the country. Oh my, that's wonderful. There are many tools, and rather than trial and error, I want to know what tools to use. We do all of the socials, and we're looking for an easier way for content creation. All right, I have got some things in mind for you, Quinn, so stick around. And I've got a couple more. First aid business. Okay. A lot of social media here, and government supply, and looking to use AI to better source for commodities and B2B stuff. Okay, perfect. So, getting to know a little bit more about you. If you have any more input, let me know. I am trying to multitask and learn about you, and also being able to make sure that we address a lot of those questions. So, this particular section is the basics of AI and ChatGPT. It is fairly text based, and what it really does is, I think of it this way: it is a machine. It is a computer. AI is something that we have taught, meaning we've given it information and different, details and dates and all those different information pieces that we need to help it generate things like decisions. Help them, the tool, help us create those decisions better. It's basically teaching a computer how to think like us and how to respond like us. Is it perfect? No, but there is a lot of learning that is going into these models, and that's making it what it is today. And that's the Chat GPT feature that we see today. In terms of the fun facts, these are a bit older now, but the first million users in just 5 days of its launch, that's crazy cool. And it achieved 100 million monthly active users in just 2 months of the launch. I think I knew how popular it was when my mom was saying, "Hey, ChatGPT is super polite." And I'm like, "You know about ChatGPT?" And she was like, "Yes, it helps me translate all my music from Indonesian to English." And I'm like, "Interesting." So, fun facts about ChatGPT. I think it's a really awesome tool for many people, especially in the content generation piece, because, you got to take the social posts, you got to make the marketing pieces, you got to do the emails. You're like, there's so many pieces. How can I get some help? And here it is. So, basic aspects of setting up ChatGPT is, I want to make sure I put this out there for people who haven't really been exposed to it. It's because it's not that difficult. You go into the OpenAI website, you click on ChatGPT on the left, you go through the process of signing up or logging in, and you give its details, whether you sign through Google or do your email. It's all fairly simple here and there. And finally, they ask us a little bit details about us, and you get to the dashboard. The dashboard here, you'll see on the left are all your new chat threads. That means you can give it, a question. Every topic can be a new chat, but also right smack dab in the middle are examples, capabilities, and also limitations of what you can and cannot do with this. For example, you could ask ChatGPT, "What the heck is quantum computing?" And it'll spill out some information for you. Capabilities, it does remember what users said earlier in the conversation thread. It allows us to provide follow-up corrections, meaning training it and being able to teach what ChatGPT should be giving us in terms of output. And obviously limitations. It's generated incorrect information in the past. It could produce harmful instructions or biased content, some things that we just need to be aware of. And also, this is a particular screenshot that's a little older, but in this screenshot, it does say like limited knowledge in terms of what the world is like. But there are ways to bypass that through, Chrome extension, third party extensions, and so forth. All right. If anybody else has any questions, I think I do see something. Let me pause here and address some of those questions to make sure that we get your responses addressed. I love, Elizabeth, that you use this for organizing blog posts, ideas, writing SEO, website information, and social media posts. I think we'll go through a little bit of that and being able to see how people organize and using your information architecture, whether it's Google Workspace or Dropbox or whatever you're using to organize it. It becomes such an easy workflow because it gives you a lot of topics, it gives you a lot of content, and then it's your job to vet it, organize it, and then obviously publish it. All right, we've got one question. Do you have an opinion about which AI is better for different tasks or perhaps different industries? I use Gemini because it's free and I'm a small business. Is it worth paying for ChatGPT? So the good news is that there is that paid version of ChatGPT, but there's that option for the free version of ChatGPT. I've stuck around using both, but for the last 6 months, I've used the free version only because it's good enough. It's improved. There was a point where it was really odd and gave really strange responses, but for the most part, it worked itself out. And I think that's the fascinating piece of AI. It's learning on its own. So here's another question. I think it's an interesting one, and y'all could have the debate or conversation in the chat. Can ChatGPT-4 eliminate bias? What are all the benefits of ChatGPT-4? I just started using it and it creates images and you can upload attachments. That's fantastic. Whether or not I believe it eliminates bias, please ask around because this is just my personal opinion. I don't believe that there is a way for us as humans to properly eliminate bias because I believe we inherently have bias built in us. And as much as we want to be objective, it's really difficult based on our perspective and our background. So that's just my perspective. ChatGPT-4, if you love using it, using the images and uploading attachments, fantastic. That's going to be a great tool for you if that's what you need. All right. When we come about to ChatGPT and educating it about your background, this is the most important step in terms of number one. Remember how we talked about how the tool is a machine and we help it to learn by giving it information. That's the part where we need to educate about our background. What this means is using the ChatGPT in a new chat or whatever the case might be, you could ask, or Gemini in this case, you could ask the tool to say, hey, I want you to learn more about me. So that way the tool can then better generate content for you. Think about someone who knows absolutely nothing about you, knows nothing about why you do what you do, your history, your emotions, any of that, and just tries to spill out content. Even if you try to hire a contractor or a team member who knows nothing about you, how are they going to know anything about you and then create content for you? They won't. So this is where it's super important. So this is what I've typed out. Two things. I've asked it, can you ask me questions to better understand my business? That's one option. And then it'll spill out a bunch of questions. And then I also added, hey, ChatGPT, in the upcoming conversations, I'll ask you to write blog content, scripts, because I do a lot of videos, and workshop presentations for me and my business. Before starting, please ask me questions to help you, ChatGPT, understand my business value and the customers that I serve. So what is this again for? It is asking ChatGPT, hey, I need you to learn about me before we get started in this whole thing. So this is the question that I asked specifically, and I typed it out. And it asked me a bunch of questions that I should have already had in a document, but here we are. So it asked me about business overview. What's the name of my business? What's the product? What's the service that I offer? How long have you been in business? You'll see that it's trying to learn more about you as it goes. Target audience. Who are you talking with? What's the unique selling proposition? What's your brand identity? Colors, tone of voice, words you probably want to use. What are your marketing goals? What are your previous marketing elements that you've used. And then it goes on to ask about budget and resources, feedback, and format and distribution, such as different platforms. So you get the idea, right? Now you're trying to answer because it's given you a bunch of questions, and it's your job to answer this to ChatGPT. Let's say you don't want to answer all of it, fine. That's okay. But the point here is that you're asking the tool to ask you questions so they can get to know you better, and then you respond with the information that you have. And so I did my due diligence and I uploaded it, and I was like, cool, this is great. I also want to save it. This, I believe, is in the paid version, but you could create custom instructions so that it remembers your history, your background based on the responses that you've given it in the past. So that's really cool because sometimes, especially on a free version, it might not have the historical knowledge for every single chat. Every new chat could be a different, search essentially. It doesn't remember the previous conversation, for example. So it's just something to consider if you do have a paid version to save your background, save your history, save your story, because that way it could generate content that resonates with your business. All right, I've got a couple people asking some things. Will we get the presentation? Yes, this is recorded and we will send the slides as well. Got a chat here. My husband uses the paid version, but I use the free version. I have tried his paid version, but I don't really see the difference for what I need it for. Yes, I think it really is up to you to determine what works for you and what doesn't. Facebook Meta has created a graphic thing where, what is the word? Where you could type in a couple words and it generates some images. There's so many tools out there. I'm not necessarily an expert of every single one of those tools, but what I can recommend you is pick a couple, try it out, see what works, and pick a lane. Because I've come to find that I have analysis paralysis. Too much information for me gets me way too overwhelmed, and I just need to know, like, hey, where do I need to go? If you have any other questions, let me know. Hopefully this covers a lot of the basics because it's going to generate content that's so much better than if you haven't given it details at all. So how do we best use ChatGPT in terms of being able to provide clear instructions, make it one step at a time. If you've given it too much details, too many things to do, they're like, which one do I need to focus on? Use prompts, which is what we'll get into. Break down those complex tasks. For example, if you wanted to create a whole social media calendar for the month, that might be too complex. Let's break it down into one. We'll do topics. Two, well, of those topics, let's pick one and do one content piece and so forth. And you take it one step at a time. Use the keywords or ask it to generate keywords for you. So then you can plug it in and say, hey, here's the list of keywords that we aligned on. Please make sure that you integrate it into our upcoming marketing content. So not only is your blog content, your SEO content, keyword rich, but you've got your social and your other components of campaigns that are also using those keywords that you want to search for, be searchable for in the World Wide Web. Providing context and offer ambiguity is really important. I think the one last thing that I believe people don't necessarily use too much of it is offer feedback. I'm not sure how many of y'all have used it, asked it to do something, and you're like, this is not what I'm looking for, X. No more. Close down the window. I'm done. Rather, giving it feedback and say, this was good, but let's change the word up a little ways, or I like it this sentence structure. Try to give it as much feedback because it can learn over time. Gina, you could ask, in terms of Gina's question here, is it private with our discussions? Since it is learning, I am concerned. I did ask that today on ChatGPT, and what it spilled out to me was like, I asked it, what are you going to do with this information that I'm putting in? And my general feedback is it is a learning model, so be wary of putting in any information, confidential, proprietary, none of that. Like, I don't recommend that at all. you could scrub the data, etc., and then use it that way. But for me, I use it for simple things and brainstorming, but I don't necessarily use any insensitive information because it is a learning model. Even though it does say they take privacy and safety very seriously, it's up to you to decide because it depends on how the company pivots and what they change and what they do internally. So there is a little bit of that mistrust, I say, in the public eye, but for the most part, it's okay for basic things. I would be very, very wary about putting in proprietary information, any of that. And just be careful because you don't know where that information will go. All right, let's go into the making of the request. So we went through and asked it to ask us questions. We pulled all that information and gave it back. And now we're ready. So I asked ChatGPT, or I told it actually, I'm ready for you to deliver content topics that you think my audience, because we've given it our audience already, that they will find relevant in the communication, leadership, and career section that relate to my business information that I shared. So I've already given it all that information and I'm asking it to be very specific. I need content topics. So this will generate content topics for my videos and my social and my marketing pieces and my emails, whatever the case might be. These are all pretty fake, but I made it as much as closely possible to most, communication, social media campaigns here. Okay. So what happens? So I got the questions, I added all the details for my business, and I want them to generate content for me. So the 3 pillars I wanted, communication, leadership, and career, it's starting to add a handful of topics based on this. Communication, the power of storytelling in business communications, exploring how authentic stories can enhance business messages and create stronger connections. You've got leadership and you've got careers. Most of these actually I thought was pretty good. Actually, it would either go as is or maybe modify a little to make sure that it aligns with my brand and my values. So with this, I now have a document that I can go and say, these are my topics. I have my major topic of communication, leadership, and those types of things. And then my subtopics, which they've lined out 5 items per category. I'm like, awesome. This could be great for all of my campaigns. So then I'm going to pause here and say we have some questions. Can ChatGPT make a curriculum? Oh, a CV? You could give it a shot. I've had people who say they've gotten a CV, a resume support, or minor tweaks. But I would also add that it is your story, it is your words. Sometimes when ChatGPT generates things, like you'll see here, it becomes a little robotic. And honestly, it's very obvious when AI has written content. So if you really want it, I would say you could use it as a baseline, but tweak it in your own words. All right. So in this response, we've got the first aspect. I want to just focus on the first one because there's just so many texts. The power of storytelling in business communication. And I want it to be a little bit more casual because especially on my videos, I don't sound this way. I'm like exploring how authentic stories can enhance business messages and create stronger connections. Sure, but I'd love to rephrase that to be a bit more conversational in my approach. So what I asked it is, hey, can you please rewrite the communication section right here in a more conversational tone? You could use different words. I want it to be more authoritative. I want it to be more business casual. I want it to be more punchy and bold, and it means this. So now, from the power of storytelling in business communications here, it's translated number 1 to storytelling magic in business. Ever noticed how a good story just sticks? Let's chat about how weaving tales can totally jazz up our business chats and make people sit up and listen. Like, all right. It is somewhat conversational, but I'm like, all right, that's not really how I talk, but okay, good shot. This is a great opportunity to tell ChatGPT, yeah, it's good, but here's how we could improve it. So being able to use the chat and say, hey, here are ways to better improve your response. It's a good way to teach ChatGPT how to learn about you. All right, let's pause here. In terms of you are on the same slide, I am. Oh, strange. I'm so sorry. Let's see if it works. All right, so let me go back. I hope that you can see. I'm going to stop share and then screen share again. So in terms of making the request, I'm going to just fly by this. I've said that I'm ready for it to deliver the content. Thank you for pointing out this. Thank you for following the workshop, but also thank you for pointing out the slides. My goodness, technology, right? So we've made the deliver of the request. I want you to create these content pieces for me. And then here's the video that I need you to see, which is important. Give me a thumbs up if you see this video. I asked it to give the content pieces for me, the communication, the leadership, the career. Yes, thank you. Okay, we're getting there. We're going to focus on that one element, communication. These are the topics that I wanted it to generate, the 5 things based on each of my pillars. It might be the Wi-Fi, but I will definitely give you these slides at the end of this workshop. But we will get some screen slides here on the next one to see that you can see here. Let's double check. All right, this is the screenshot. Everybody? This first piece, the power of storytelling in business communication, exploring how authentic stories can enhance business messages and create stronger connections. So that particular line, it generated, which is good. It's fine. I think it's doable. I think a lot of the categories that it's used is good. But we wanted to talk about rephrasing. So in this slide, you should see 2 graphics. It's one, how it was originally outputted. It gave me information. But 2, I wanted to give it some feedback to make it a bit more conversational. This is what I was reading earlier, where it translated to storytelling magic in business and made it more conversational. And this is their output. Ever notice how a good story just sticks? Let's chat about weaving tales that can totally jazz up our business chats and make people sit up and listen. So this is a good opportunity, I was saying, to offer feedback because candidly, it is not necessarily the type of conversations we're looking for, or at least I am. So this is a good opportunity to continue to give it feedback. Hey, I know I said I wanted to be more conversational. What that means is XYZ. So I will be sure to not have any videos and skip over some of those videos because it's blurry. Can ChatGPT create images and videos? I think ChatGPT in this particular case is using a lot of text-based. Some of the new features, I believe someone had said, yes, you can. There's so many different, AI tools out there, different software that can generate videos. And I believe Sora is what OpenAI created for videos out there. And I think it's very impressive. Okay. And I do agree with Jennifer. It's not great for images, and there are lots of better ones out there. Okay, moving on to making the request. Here is, now that it's known a lot about you from the initial questions that we asked, we want to now make the request, which is write me a 300-word blog that starts with 3 key takeaways from the blog. I copied and pasted from that input earlier. The power of storytelling in business communications, with a strong call to action to contact me via email. So in this blog, for those of you who've already done this, being specific in the word usage, because a blog can be 1,000 words, it could be 1,500 words, it could be more or less, but I'm specific. I want 300 words. And then I want 3 key takeaways because this is a style that I prefer. I like knowing what I'm going to get when I read. And then I want a strong call to action to contact me via email. So with this, it generated this response. So with the power in storytelling, it's talking about how authentic narratives make your messages shine. Here are the key takeaways in terms of authentic storytelling. Transform dry business messages into memorable narratives. The right story builds trust and fosters a genuine connection with your audience. Story-driven content makes your brand more relatable and sets you apart in a crowded market. Perfect. This is what the blog is about. I'm like, great. But let's see what the initial paragraph says. In the world of business communication, the battle to capture attention is fierce. Amidst the noise, how do you make your message stand out? The answer: storytelling. Not just any stories, but authentic, heart tugging, and real narratives that resonate. So far, so good. I think there's a lot of key words in here that I would use. This is the approach that I would use. It's a little bit more robotic than how I normally would write, but it's also an opportunity to give it that feedback. And so that's just something to start with. And then we want to rewrite it. Let's see, I'm going to change this presentation for y'all. In terms of rewriting that particular blog, I want it to write this in a more conversational and warm tone. For some reason, it is my go-to word: conversational and warm. And so, in its response back to me, instead of saying the power of storytelling in business communication, it goes and says, the magic behind storytelling in business, why authentic tales are game changers. Hey, guess what? Real stories turn those yawn-worthy business blurbs into tales people can't forget. The first paragraph says, okay, let's have some real talk. We're all swamped with ads, emails, and promotions daily, right? So, how does one message make you stop mid-scroll while others get the swift swipe of indifference? Ding, ding, ding. You guessed it, storytelling. Up to you on which preference you want, whether you want the initial output or you want the conversational and warm tone. It depends. It's whatever you prefer. But if you don't think that this is perfect enough for you or it could use a little bit of work, always give it feedback and help it rewrite things for you ongoing. And that way you could help train your model to give you better content as we go. In terms of prompts, we will get there. And here is another way. This example was particularly important because it was really robotic. This was an example where I didn't give it any detail about my business or anything, but I did ask it to write another blog on embracing authenticity in digital communications with a strong call to action. Super vague. So in reading this, it talks about embracing authenticity in digital communications. And this is where I got concerned. In an increasingly digitized world, it's easy for the essence of our humanity to get lost in the pixels. The key to counteracting its effect: authenticity. While the digital realm offers myriad ways to present ourselves, authenticity remains the most compelling. And here's why. Woo! It is so robotic. It is not the way that anybody would read or speak. Nobody necessarily uses the word pixels or the essence or myriad ways. So again, I wanted to remove marketing jargons, this next section here, and I want it to be more conversational. You could use different words, which I'll share with you later down the line, but being able to create this content a bit more conversationally is important to me. So we go, hey there, have you ever noticed how sometimes online interactions feel a bit robotic? Ironic, right? It's an easy trap to fall into, but there's a secret weapon that can keep our digital chats as genuine as a coffee catch up with an old friend. That secret: just being ourselves, or in other words, embracing authenticity. So, do you notice how one, not teaching ChatGPT what you're all about impacts the content output? It's super robotic. We don't necessarily use these particular words, at least in my opinion. And then by retraining it and offering feedback to say, hey, I want it to be in a more conversational tone with less marketing jargons, it's given a better result in terms of our blog. In terms of prompts, we'll get there in about slides here, Natasha. But last but not least is the social piece. So with social, you could always be very much specific. What platform, how many characters, what do you want it to do? In this case, the ask was, help me write a social media post for LinkedIn for 500 characters. It's got a lot of character counts about my experience as a TV reporter and now as an integrated communication specialist, aim to build trust with my primary and secondary audience. It only knows my primary and secondary audience because I've told it earlier on in its history. So here it is. From chasing headlines to a TV reporter to crafting impactful narratives as an integrated communication specialist, that's me. My passion has always been about authentic storytelling. Years in the newsroom taught me the power of a compelling story, and now I'm using that experience to help businesses like yours shine brighter. To all the ambitious entrepreneurs out there, whether you're field-driven, primary, or all about the data, secondary audience, trust in a journey that bridges both worlds. Together, we will elevate your brand story. So with this particular case, thank you, everybody. With this particular case, I asked it to do a social media post. And what I did was I slapped on a picture of me, albeit old picture of me, but it performed really well. I did caveat it with the fact that this was for a workshop and that it was written by ChatGPT for the sake of an example purpose, but it got like 1,000 impressions, more than what I normally got. And I was impressed because, typically my captions are generally longer. So I made sure that I had a lot of words in there to reflect a little bit more about how I would authentically write this instead of having it to be like one line or two lines. Because generally speaking, it's up to you how you want to generate that. Some of y'all have asked for an AI prompt, so we're going to talk about what the heck that AI prompt is all about and the formula that we get to being able to creating those prompts. So essentially, at the end of the day, a prompt is just an ask. It gives you the information, the text that things that it's related to what you've asked. So the more specific and the detailed you get in terms of your prompt and your ask, the more accurate and helpful the model response will be for you. So here is the formula for crafting prompts. You want to define what it is it's doing. You want to specify the subject or maybe the sector or the industry, highlight those key aspects of any keywords or any features that should be included, indicate who you're talking with, and it should also already know you if you've already trained it initially, and then setting this tone and style. So specify what it is that you're looking for. Candidly, in the previous examples, I didn't say I wanted a conversational tone right off the bat. I did it in feedback form. So integrating it would be helpful. So you could take a screenshot of this, or I'll be able to send you the workshop presentation after. But this is essentially the formula of crafting prompts. And for all y'all who do different types of campaigns, here are some formulas for content generation, product service description, doing market research, email outreach. So there's so many things that you could do. You can play with what we have on screen. You could test out your own version. I think it's like a playground that you can check out. All right. So Natasha, hopefully this answers your question. We've got a couple more slides on this, and then we can get into personas and such. Couple of questions I have here. In terms of ChatGPT and social media posts, I personally have not necessarily used this for any projects of mine that really go out to the public. In terms of automation, I'm sure there's ways to really streamline this, but in my opinion, I would not necessarily recommend automation using this particular tool, only because you're really relying on this tool to get it right the first time and then publish on your behalf. And to me, that's a little daunting, at least for now, because I don't know about y'all in terms of your business, but I'm fairly strict on what goes out in terms of content because I want it to make sure it's accurate, it reflects, good for the brand and so forth. So just caveat there for that particular question on automation. Got another question that says, is what we create through it our intellectual property? Can we add our copyright to it? That goes into some legal things that I'm not necessarily aware of, but I do know that be aware of what you input because it is a learning model, which means it's being trained with the information, whether or not it's your information or on the web or whatever OpenAI uses. There is that privacy concern that people have. And last but not least, will we get a replay of this? Absolutely. All right, last slide here on prompts. It's your competitor analysis. It is an event invitation, a social media post, a press release, maybe a press pitch, FAQ section. There's so many. If you want to email me and I could help you create a prompt, awesome. But your prompts is essentially the ask that you are getting to ChatGPT to say, hey, please do this for me. This is what I want. But by being detailed, by adding those tasks, the specific sector, the specific key features, and the outcome that you want, it'll be more, concise in terms of its response back to you. A couple of other aspects in terms of being able to elevate your marketing is having us leverage a persona, meaning teaching ChatGPT really a way to understand, hey, these are the personas that we have for our particular business. We have person A, Lisa, and she likes this and that, and these are her pain points. These are her challenges, and this is how we solve them. And use ChatGPT to learn those different personas so then they could respond and create stories for the different people that you serve. Should be a hand fist here. And then focus on your audience, giving it rules, parameters, whether it's a conversational tone or authority, terms of tone, whatever the case might be, and asking ChatGPT to ask you questions. Help it be curious about you. That way, you might not be thinking about it, but it needs that information from you to do the best job possible. So here is the slide on leveraging a persona. It's two screenshots here where it says, take a persona of whatever particular role and their task. And in this case, the goal was taking on the persona of an investigative tech reporter, well-versed in cybersecurity, and they're going to interview the CEO or whatever. Ask me 10 thoughtful, difficult questions about cybersecurity to help me prepare for an interview. And it gave us 10 different questions of how we could start thinking about the responses this particular reporter might ask. And this is helpful because, it's gotten a lot of information about cybersecurity and it's asking in today's evolving cyber threat landscape, how does our organization prioritize security investments and allocate resources effectively to mitigate risk? So you start, your wheels start turning because it's asking you really difficult questions, maybe questions that you haven't really thought about or put together, but it's helped you prepare for a media interview or a blog post and so forth. So there are so many ways that a persona can really help with helping ChatGPT create content, questions, or even ideas for you. Up next is following up with a question. There is a third party. I use AIPRM, the Chrome extension. You can see the watermark in the back. I've given it web access and I've asked it, now that you have access to the web, what do others say about that first question that you had asked us? Can you please provide some resources? I want to do some fact checking. I want to do some cross referencing and so forth. So it spills out industry reports and surveys, and it does give me a link for me to check an institute. It also refers cybersecurity blogs and websites, which is helpful, conferences and events, research papers and academic journals, and last but not least, some interviews and podcasts. Maybe that, for my interview, I can help prepare by watching other things. So This particular thing, the Chrome extension, the AI PRM, is really helpful because it did give me a lot of different prompts right away, but also access to the web. So that will be helpful for some folks to generate some of those prompts quickly. Up next is parameters. What the heck is parameters? I like to think of it as the bowling ramps, the bumpers, where you want it to give ChatGPT some parameters, some guidelines, some rails to make sure that they stay within those parameters. One, what type of tone do you want it to use? I said here, moving forward, can you please make sure that you use a conversational tone and avoid jargon? But you have other options: professional, friendly, and approachable tone, adaptability to context, providing it sensitivity to emotion, maybe recognizing some of the bias questions that we had earlier, clarity and conciseness, and also consistency. I'll find that some questions that I ask, and I ask several questions at a time, the consistency of its response go, bing, bang, boom. It's like everywhere. So being able to be consistent right off the bat and giving it those parameters, probably very helpful for you in the long run. Can ChatGPT add links in the document or just refers you? You can actually have it say, "Hey, I want you to do some research on." I did some U.S. Labor Bureau statistics and so forth, and I'm like, please give me some research, but also link the resources that you have. And it's great because with the third-party Chrome extension, I was able to click and reference the sources that they had, with the caveat that they were wrong in one or two instances that I had to verify the information. Quinn, yes, this is the example that we talked about in terms of learning your style. I have given it examples in this particular case. Let me see if it works for y'all. If it's blurry, that's okay. But I have had other example scenarios, example blogs, example social media content. If you can't see this, what I've asked ChatGPT to do is I have 3 different scenarios of how a brand influencer negatively influenced the company. And so here I was like, please learn from these 3 instances so we can then, one, avoid it in the future, but also for you, ChatGPT, to have some context. So absolutely, on feeding it the style. Hey, I really love this style. Here's the blog post. Please learn and analyze the words and the tone and the style and the structure, etc. Absolutely. I would heavily encourage it. So when I asked it to learn the 3 different scenarios in this particular video, it analyzed it. But then I also then followed up with can you develop a scorecard for these influencers that we're going to work with in the future to make sure that we can better measure our influencers and their quality, and how likely are they to get a negative review or negative word about our company, and making sure that our vetting process is even more strict. So developed a scorecard for me based on engagement rate, relevance to our target audience, brand alignment, overall fit, along with professionalism and communication. So it was very, very well thought out from ChatGPT to go, okay, here is something that you could start with. Obviously, modify and tweak. That's what I always recommend, is because it's never perfect at the beginning. It's not maybe your style, but you have the ability to give it feedback or just change it right off the bat. These Chrome extensions have been pretty popular for many folks in terms of being able to do more. And these Chrome extensions and the different types of software out there, and I have one particular video tool that I like to use. It's so awesome. Some of them are a hit and miss. Some of them are really cool, but they evolve over time. So give it a shot. These are some of the voice assistants or writing emails and fixing grammar. You've got Grammarly for that as well. Then you've got, Chrome extension to write better LinkedIn posts, because I don't know how many of you, but I always go, congratulations, or love it, and amazing. And that's like all I put. But being able to write insightful LinkedIn comments is another feature here. Another piece here are, ChatGPT for Chrome, a web extension with internet access. That's the last one there. It's a free extension that adds relevant web results to our prompts to ChatGPT for more accurate and up-to-date conversations. So this is, one part of what I was talking about earlier. Then we move on to an AI chatbot powered by GPT-4, which answers queries, summarizes videos, articles, PDFs, websites, and it writes emails for you. I think the tools can go on, and I think it's fascinating. But I do want to go into some of the learning AI tools that I've used more recently. One, if y'all are using Canva, I love the design software, but it's also added its own toolkit of AI tools. I haven't used all of it personally because, oh my gosh, there's so many, but I have used a handful that I'm like, I can't live without you. One is Dolly, creating, graphics potentially. There's one where you could create more AI audio based on your voice. It's fascinating. It's so cool. Then these are my other text-based favorites: Grammarly, Jasper, Copy AI. So, for example, I had some help that I needed for LinkedIn ads using Jasper, for example, being able to say, "Hey, here's the audience. This is the framework. This is where it's at. Can you give me some ideas?" And it generates that. And I look at this as like my team member right next to me. ChatGPT is a brainstorm buddy who can be able to really bounce off ideas off of. The key question to me is like, what AI tool can create audio? Because ChatGPT is specific in terms of text based and it has some extensions and so forth. But if you explore audio, let me see if I have one here in particular, like music, you can. There's one that composes unique music for your content. You can create, generate instruments, control effects, and runs a number of activities and workstations. This is for music and design, etc. So there are other software out there. It might not necessarily be ChatGPT. Then you've got some of my other favorites. Adobe Firefly, stock img.ai. You want to be able to generate some content here. Awesome.
Hi, I am Mega.
And
Let's
then this
create
is
engaging videos for marketing,
HeyGen
e-learning, or training
and
audience in
Canva.
minutes.
So Canva, you can use a stock image, for example, describe what you want it to have in its background, and then boom, it has, flowers or a very scenic river behind it, etc. So like it's really cool that you could take one image, you're like, it's kind of okay, but I want to make it better. You could use that tool on Canva. HeyGen here is me taking, like, I had a photo of myself and I had a script written. I think you heard the script there, but it just made my mouth move. A little strange, but the tool is probably going to improve as we go. And last but not least, I wanted to share one more thing actually. This is what I used pretty much on the regular, and I use this for myself and some other projects. Opus Clips. So you know how, for example, I'm doing this recording, it's an hour long, and probably not everybody's gonna come in, and watch the whole thing again, replay. If you take that hour-long clip and you put it on Opus Clips, for instance, you can get and generate content that is
You could take it from the
going to
general
be featured on here. Let me make sure that I'm on the same slide here. Is this it? Yes. So this Open Clips is you input the video and then it generates all the clips based on, maybe you want it to have 30 seconds or less, 1 minute or less, and so forth. Super cool. Synthesia I've seen used for workshops and like training sessions where you type up a script and this avatar talks on your behalf. And if you do the paid version, you can do more customizations and so forth. But it's fascinating in terms of being able to use AI in your day to day. I will definitely put the music one up top once we finish this particular webinar. But I know y'all have questions. If you would love to submit a feedback, would be really beneficial, because I've gotten some questions that I could definitely improve our workshops for future training in terms of being able to create audio or maybe generate more graphics and so forth. What is it that we could help you as business owners generate better content using the tools out there, preferably free, I presume, to really make sure that you get what you need? But first, I'm going to answer some questions. How can you create an AI assistant for a website to answer visitor questions? There are lots of tools that you can look up. For example, chatbots. And there are lots of chatbots out there in ways that you can create FAQs and so forth and follow the prompts in terms of being able to train what its response is. You know how sometimes you go through a customer service and it selects, what type of issue that you have, and then it generates a response from there. Those are functions that you can create if then decision making trees and so forth. So but looking out at chatbot functions out there and the software that's available would be my first recommendation. Pamela, don't drown in notes. There is no reason for you to do that. I hope that you had fun and listened here, but I know if there is anything that I could do, I will offer a 15-minute complimentary conversation if you email me. But let me just read this where it says, my business schedule over 100 items of to-dos for everything like specific events and admin. Girl, I relate. There are a lot of things that we have to do as business owners, and me being one of them, from legal to team to admin to the actual work to, the workshops and all of those stuff. So many important information. But from my other workshops of project management, organize your to-dos in must-dos, should-dos, could-dos, and won't-dos. Don't do everything. Not everything's important. And hopefully we could prioritize those to-dos. All right. What is the name of my dog? Oh, that's my late dog, Fluffy. And I love integrating him into my stories because I do miss him dearly. And he's a big part of why I do what I do. He's given me the encouragement to invest in other people. And, that's how I want to keep his legacy moving on in life. But in terms of questions, does anybody else have anything? We talked about a lot of different content today. We talked about how we train ChatGPT with our content, making it ask questions about you. We talked about the content generation, blogs, emails, being specific, being very, given parameters of what ChatGPT should and should not do, being able to elaborate on those questions and feedback. My personal favorite choice is conversational tone and less marketing jargons. But what is yours? Being able to really craft your ChatGPT experience and offering that feedback and learning its tool. Yes, it's a little bit of an investment up front. I'll give you that. But the more it's learned, the better it is in the long run. So with that, thank you so much for attending. Appreciate your patience with the slides. Do email me if you want a 15-minute complimentary conversation. I've got some folks waiting, a wait list happening, but I will definitely send that over because I believe that you are capable. And if just a little bit of help helps you, awesome. And I'm here for it. So Pamela, I expect an email if that is something that you want. But in terms of questions, I am standing by. Let me look at what is in the thread right now. I receive a lot of AI generated emails for cold calling. I am there with you, which AI creates the emails against lead generation. I'll definitely look at some for you. Natasha, you can send me an email. I'll figure out and try it out. I haven't specifically done that particularly because it's a little bit spammy in some, but I've also seen that works really well. That integrates like a video of themselves and say, hey, I've made something for you. I'm like, I'm intrigued. What did you make for my business? Then you see it and it looks like a really unique presentation. I think there are some cool tools out there. So ping me and we'll dig deep into what is actually available. Nothing comes to top of mind for me. Email. Do you see my email? It's hello@megajewell.com. Hello, HELLO @megajewell.com. I will also put it in the chat, but also realize that the survey here was not plugged in. So let me make sure that the survey is here for y'all to plug in. All right. With that said, we appreciate you so much. I cannot tell you how much I'm so thankful for y'all to be here investing in your own business, being able to use AI in your day to day. I think it's awesome. All right. I am here for the next couple of minutes. So let's keep those questions coming if you want to stay here. Dawn, what is your question? Quinn, how much do you need? Hold on. How much do you spend a month on AI tools for your own business? Oh, Lord. Which ones are worth the fee for pro paid versions? Honestly, it depends. If you want to send me an email, we could definitely have conversations about this. But my tools aren't necessarily just AI based, but my favorite ones are Opus. Opus is the one that generates long videos, which I can talk on and on and on and on a video, and having it chopped up and grade which one will likely be more relevant for my audience is really awesome. I do pay for that one. Grammarly is awesome because, you know, at one point you could look at a content piece and you're like, there should be a missing comma somewhere here, but I'm not seeing it. And that's the one I use. So I can list out, I can go through my statement and see which software I've been charged for and give it to you. But we can have that discussion. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you, Marisa. Dawn, let me see what your question is. I have a question about teaching chat. Well, is that the question in terms of your teaching ChatGPT? Thanks, Joseph. When you spend all that time to train chat, initially, when I train the ChatGPT tool, it's usually up front, and it does take a little bit of time, which is why I said to save it either in a different document because you want to use that same input later down the line. It's gotten to the point where it's fairly reasonable now, but for me, I would say build in that time to train ChatGPT because it's not perfect right off the bat. Opus, Grammarly, Canva. Curious about HeyGen and your experience. HeyGen does have that attachment correlation with Canva. And I think you could use it. There's, you know, the free element of it. But yeah, send me an email and we could have a conversation. Have to enter every conversation after you've trained. For every chat thread, my understanding is that a new chat thread could be a different thing. So you could add a different context, but on that same chat thread, then that training is applied. But if you want to do a new chat thread and you want to start over for something, my recommendation is to take the responses that you had in the beginning, where it asks you a bunch of questions about your business, save that in a document so then you can go back to a new chat and say, hey, please learn everything that we've talked about. Here's my business detail, copy and paste, and then you can go from there. So there is that element of saving the content if you don't have the paid version. And there is the element of having it trained on a new chat, but if you're on the same chat, it should have retained that information as it's developing. All right, with that, I'm going to toss it over to Dawn. Dawn, thank you so much for having me. SCORE LA, please be sure to check out other SCORE chapters. Grab a mentor. I cannot tell you how useful and beneficial a mentor is, especially when I believe someone had said, there's just so many things to do. So help is there with you.
Great. Thanks so much, Mega, for a great presentation. I'm Don Turner. I am not a robot. I am with SCORE LA, and I want to invite you to visit our website, stay in touch with a mentor. And we also, as a footnote, we have chapters all over the United States. So if we need to get additional specialized training for you, we can make that connection. Again, thank you very much. Thank you all for attending.